Okay, can you guys hear me? Hello, everyone. Looks like it's about time to get started here. Can you hear me? Good morning. How are you guys today? Good. Did everybody have a nice weekend? You guys ready to start a new week? I'm good. My daughter was actually sick the last 2 days. I don't know if it was a combination of a cold and allergies, but it's been kind of a crazy last 2 days. But she was able to go to school today, so that's a good thing. She's on some decongestants. 'Tis the season. Yeah, she'll be fine. She was all smiles when I left her today, so all good. But we had a great weekend. I don't know about you guys, but it is beautiful here in Pittsburgh. We have 80-degree weather, no humidity. Well, a little humidity, but beautiful weather. Yeah, I know, me too. She got burnt by a marshmallow this weekend too, so that started it all. We just got this fire pit we haven't put together, and we just decided to put it together, and it was one of those things where she went to grab the marshmallow and it burned her hand, and that just started all the other things. I think I blame it on the full moon. There was a full moon on Saturday, Friday the 13th on a Friday. In my world, the full moon kind of creates some chaos. So. Yeah, she did, but she's doing great now. So it was great to see her smile today. Did you guys have a good weekend? Do anything fun or interesting? Yeah. What did you guys think of your week 2 work? Did you guys, very cool. Spent with your grandson. How old is your grandson? Oh, that's a great age. Yeah. Oh, very cool. Air show. I haven't seen an air show in a long time, but those are really neat to see. Very, very cool. We used to see them when I lived in Akron, Ohio. We used to go and watch them in a field really close to where we lived. They were big fighter jets. It's kind of cool. Kids love that too. It's always kind of scary though. It's like one of my biggest fears of planes crashing. So I'm always like, I like it, but I don't like it. Yeah. It's like bittersweet, right? It's like, please don't crash. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, when they fly really low and it's so loud. Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, I see there's a lot of you that still owe me work, and midweek, so week 2, I have to produce a report of how my sections are doing. There's a lot of you that are really kind of underneath the failing mark here, which is kind of concerning. So I really, really, really want you, and a lot of it is you guys just haven't turned in work yet. For those of you who turn in work, that's awesome. You guys are a step ahead. For those of you who haven't, please turn that in so that I'm able to, by Wednesday at least, show that my classes are doing really well. And I know you guys will do great. It's just you need to submit your work. So get that in so that, we're in good standing. And if you have any questions, let me know. I know I posted an announcement yesterday in regards to some of your submissions. So you might be hanging in the 0 mark. Read your comments. If you have a 0 for week 2 and you submitted your work, go in and read my comments. There might be something that's missing that you need to revise, and I posted an announcement and sent emails to you guys about that too. You're surprised? Well, you should pat yourself on the back. Sometimes people think, oh, I probably did really bad, and they, but you should, be more confident in what you're doing here. For those of you who, there are definitely those of you who are doing great in this class, 100%. So it's good to see some strong projects coming through. We're just going to be building upon everything that we've learned for this week. So you're relieved. That's always a good feeling, right? Start of a new week and having good grades. But like I said, if you received a 0 and you did turn your work in, please, please, please read my comments. There you go. Yeah, on your oh, good. Congratulations. Yeah, so I know a lot of you guys freak out when you see that 0 and you're like, I turned it in. Well, I have to put a 0 in there for a placeholder grade. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's always going to stay that way. But, you know, if you don't, obviously, if you don't submit it correctly, I want you guys to get as much points as possible and do the best you can. So I'm giving you like that second chance. So. All right, well, welcome to week 3. This is like the midway point of the mod here. Hopefully you guys are getting some great information from this class, just some things that you might not have thought about when you're creating your projects. What you did in week 2 was pretty much convert your Pantone colors that you chose for your aqueous mark, logo mark company. You were to choose 2 different color schemes, convert your Pantone colors to process. So, so that you know how to do that conversion. That color conversion is important to understand why you do it and how you do it, because you will be doing that in the future with clients. And also, you guys created a poster. So maybe in kind of realizing when you start creating that poster that maybe the colors that you chose for your final logo worked really well with the poster that you decided to do, or maybe it didn't work very well and you had to kind of adjust things. And this is all part of the process. A lot of you guys did a great job on your posters. A few of you had a little issues with alignment and proximity and hierarchy. But read through my comments, adjust what I kind of gave you suggestions to do, adjust that when you're going forward, because in week 4, you guys will be building upon, you guys right now are going to be building upon your projects. So week 4, you'll show all of the projects that you've been working on. So it's important to make those revisions now so that when you're at the week 4 next week, you're not taking so much time. You know, it's kind of like you have more time to polish everything up. Does anybody have any questions before I go forward here about anything that we've gone over so far? Week 4 can be a tough week. I think you guys will be okay though, because this is kind of like, you know, you guys are just kind of building upon what you've already done. And I believe in week 4, let me see here. I mean, you have the discussion in your career integration. Okay, yeah, week 4, your assessment is a quiz. So I know, isn't it crazy? It goes so fast. I mean, you guys probably faster, but it's kind of crazy. But yeah, we just we get here so quickly. I know. You know, I just feel like, you know, now that I'm getting older, life is just going so much faster with everything, not just with school and everything. Yeah, it's crazy. All right. Well, yeah, I think it's true, though. I think it's definitely something that happens when we get older. When we're younger, we think summer lasts for a whole year because we have no concept of time. Those were the days, right? Christmas is almost here. We just decorated for Halloween because my daughter was so excited. We got started a little early. So we have some fun things going on and coming up here, and it'll go super, super fast. But enjoy every second of being in school, because when you're out of school, you're going to, you know, and I know I've been there when I was a student. I'm like, oh, I just can't wait to get out of school. And then once you're out of school, you're like, oh, I miss school. My daughter's 5. Yeah, she's 5. I only have one little kiddo. So I caught what you were saying. Yeah, so it's a fun age for sure for like holidays. She definitely makes holidays a lot different. Kids definitely do. So, all right, well, let's get started here. Just, you know, I'm gonna go right into I'm sure he is. You got all their lists ready. I'm going to go right into the discussion, and then we'll go right into your assignment 3. Your assessment 3 will be kind of a part of everything too. It's going to be, for assignment 3, you're going to be creating a 3-panel brochure, 2-sided, and then assessment 3 will be signage for this brand. So that's kind of what we're going to do. And then we'll take a look at your discussion as well. Just kind of an FYI here. And again, for some reason, I forgot to change this slide out. So um, I don't know if I have, oh, I thought I had my lecture times on here, but I don't. Okay. So this is good. Yeah. So all of your work needs to be in by midnight this Saturday for week 3 for possible full credit. Don't forget, in week 4, which is next week, I can't accept any late work past Saturday at midnight in week 4 because grades will be posted and due. And then don't forget also your discussions. Okay, give me 1 second because it sounds like my puppy's getting into something. 1 second here, guys. I swear he knows every time I start a lecture. I try to keep him out this time, but he's being a bad boy. You only have 1 class next mod. That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of nice to have that break. Welcome, Misty. Very, very cool. All right. Yeah, that'll be a great change for you. Maybe a little bit of a break. I know 2 classes sometimes, depending on the classes, can be a little rough. Yep. Oh, I know. I took online classes for my graduate degree, and it's pretty intense. Oh, okay. That's a nice balance then, right? Sometimes when you have 2 design classes, depending on what they are, it could be kind of a little bit much too. You'll be a well-rounded student. Well, there you go. I think we love all the design classes because that's exactly what we're going for. So that's a good thing. All right, so week 3, just kind of a little review here, what you guys will be walking away from this week. Yeah, I'm not very into writing either. I hear you. You will be differentiating between spot Pantone, RGB, and CMYK color models. We kind of talked about that the last week. So just kind of understanding the purposes of each, and what you would use that for. Welcome, Jonathan. We're going to distinguish the similarities and differences between raster images and vector. Welcome, Larry. Distinguish differences between Pantone, RGB, and CMYK gamut. Set up margin, gutters, and bleeds in a document for correct pre-press output. Create a packaged print-ready pre-pressed file, and create a print-ready PDF. Some of you guys had some issues with the whole packaging, how to package your file the last week. So if you received a message from me saying, make sure you properly package your file, I showed a step-by-step demo of how to do this in the lectures prior, so definitely listen to the recording. Here's a little quote here. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. Steve Jobs is a quote from Steve Jobs here. It's form and function. So yeah, we kind of have to make sure that it also works. And working it doesn't necessarily mean it has to work. It doesn't have to be like a website necessarily, but we're going to be doing a brochure. So when we talk about a brochure, to relate that to it, we have to make sure that the viewer is able to read through the brochure easily, and it works properly in terms of how they would open it and how it all kind of reads together. Okay, so there's a little short video in here. Think about thinking differently if you guys want to check that out. And also don't forget your course media page has not only your required lecture one each time for each week that is required to watch, but also required readings. I'm going to skip down here. Required readings and videos that you need to definitely check out each week here. So here's LinkedIn learning videos, going into some of the Photoshop basics this week, InDesign layout basics as well. So definitely a great resource here. Just talking more into the textbook about trimming, binding, and finishing, and also resolution for print output, something very important to keep in mind. And I showed you how to check that in Photoshop last time that we met up. I know it was a lot of steps, and it was a lot of information at once whenever I was showing you that, but hopefully you'll kind of get into the rhythm of checking. Andrea, I was really confused on last week's assignment, but once I started to do it, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Did you say we're having a quiz this week? I'm not great at taking tests. No, week 4, and I'm glad you were able to get through that, by the way. Week 4, you will have a quiz for your assessment 4. This week, you have 2 projects. So you're good to go. But you know what? I'm not really that great at quizzes either. I'm more of a visual person when it comes to learning, so I understand. But what's nice about taking quizzes on here online is that you have no time frame. So you can always problem solve, you know, by researching the questions. You don't have a time limit. Yeah. So take your time. And a lot, like I said, a lot of the stuff is from your course media page too, the information that's in the quiz. Yep, I hear you, Misty. You are. I believe that theory is true. Most artistic people do have trouble with quizzes and tests. And it's funny that you say that, because I remember when I was younger, you know, I just had trouble. I got really anxious when it was before a quiz. And people learn differently, so. Everybody learns differently. Everybody has a different way of learning. So it can be tough for, I believe, more creative people. We learn a little differently. We're more visual people, so. Okay. Yeah, and then there's, you know, other issues that you could have as well, which, you know, it's just part of being human. So this is part of the process here. Okay, so do you guys know the differences between vector and raster files? You probably have heard that, right? I'm sure, hopefully. If not, this is why we're here. So can anybody tell me what vector means? What's a vector file? I mean, what program would you use if you're creating vector artwork? Illustrator, perfect. Good. Is it pixel dependent or pixel independent? Does it rely on pixels? Yes. Yep, you're right. So it's pixel independent. And so the opposite, no, you're good. I know that's a little hard. So the opposite of raster is that it is pixel dependent, because that's kind of what it uses, pixels. And what program do we use? What program will we use that's a raster-based program? That's okay. That's why you're here. What's a raster-based program? That's an example. Photoshop, good. Yep. So if you want to say, you know, blow up a logo that you created and it's a raster-based image, what are the cons of that? What could be a con of that? Like a bad thing? What could happen to the logo if you blew it up bigger than the resolution allowed for? If it's made in Photoshop, a logo. Pixelization, right? It starts becoming pixel. You can see Yep, you can see the pixels, and that's when it becomes outside of the dots per inch. Yep. With Illustrator, a vector-based program, if you create a logo in a vector-based program, it's based on mathematical equations. It has no pixels, it's just lines. You could blow it up to infinity and it would still be sharp. So that's the main reason why we use a vector-based program like Illustrator to create logos. Photoshop's more for like image manipulation, where you can go in and actually change the coloring or the tone. You know, you can actually go in and edit the pixels. Good. So this is basically what they're talking about here, about pixel. You guys got that right, so you're on track. I'm going to scroll down here, read through the background on your own, and I'll read through the prompt here. Imagine that you've just landed a great design job. The client would like you to produce a billboard for this company. Think how big a billboard is. It's huge. Along with a brochure and some promotional items like embroidered hats and jackets. The company has a logo that they have used for years. They are sticking with their current brand. The client instructs you to go to their website and grab the logo from their homepage, saying that this is where others have gotten it from in the past, and that is the only logo that exists. So, and this happens, you guys, very often this happens. For your initial post, address the following questions. Number 1, will this logo work for the projects you have been hired to do? Why or why not? Number 2, how do you explain your dilemma to the client? And number 3, how does color gamut figure into this? Okay. So for your citation, you might use articles that describe the vector versus raster artwork, print versus web, resolution and color, or which file type is best for which job. All right. So when looking at your fellow students' discussion posts, you might consider addressing which points that they may come across well and which need further explanation. What might help clarify their points, you know, kind of poke holes in their theories. You can share resources. So this is a client that came to you. They already have their logo created. They're just saying, hey, this is our logo. You can get it off our website. You can pull it right off of our website, and we want this to be on our billboard. So when you're talking about their website, we're assuming that this website is, you know, obviously everything made for a website is a lower resolution, right? What's the dots per inch for a website for imagery? $72 dots per inch, correct? Yep. So if it's 72 dots per inch, that's low res, but it's okay for being on the web. That's what you want it to be. But for print purposes, it should be what? Not 72, 300, yeah. So obviously there's that, right? So it's a lower res. And then you're getting it online, so the size of it could be super small. It could be like a 2-inch by 2-inch website or logo, 2 inches by 2 inches at 72 dots per inch. If you were going to go in and actually try to make that larger, it's going to be super pixelated. Not to mention the size and the resolution. Yeah, it's going to be also what? It's not going to be a vector image. It's going to be raster. Yep. So those are some issues there you want to bring up. The only way that would actually work is if the client had a high-res original 300 dots per inch, or not even dots per inch, sorry, original high-res, and I say high-res, but it would be the original AI logo available on their website. But we're just talking about the logo that's in their website, like on their splash page, like their home page. So, yep. So you're going to find yourself in these situations because a lot of clients don't understand all of this. And this is why you guys are here, to learn all of this so that you can prevent issues going forward. Because if you were to do that and then you blew up that logo, just think about billboard size. You know, you're talking feet, huge. Like you're talking the logo could be over a foot large or bigger. So that can be an issue. So how would you explain this dilemma to your client in a professional way that you're not making them sound like they don't know what they're doing, but you kind of are, this isn't going to work. Because clients do kind of want to lean on you. They are hiring you for a reason. They want, you know, they're going to want to understand what's going on and why it won't work. Yep. And, that's all part of the process. And, you know, so go ahead and does anybody have any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward, right? It's a big printer. Yeah, I think they do them in like in sheets, I believe, like a screen printer there. All right, I think we're good to go. And you can show examples. Like you can show an example of a billboard using really bad resolution imagery or logos, for instance. You know what I mean? So you can say, this is how it's going to look. And you can show your client how that's going to look. Say, this is what your logo is going to look like. And it's not good to have a logo look pixelated because brand recognition, you pay a lot for that. So if you're distorting the logo in any way, and I talked to some of you guys who were doing that on your posters, if you distort it out of proportion or if it looks pixelated, that brand recognition will be pretty much destroyed because you're not seeing the logo in the original way that it's supposed to be viewed at. So these clients are putting a lot of money into their brand and their logo, but when it's shown in a different way other than the original way, it's taking away from that. Okay, well, you can talk about both, Larry. Yep. You can talk about how you know you can say to the client, and you want to make sure you're they don't know all the technical aspects of it, but you can talk about the technical aspects of it in your discussion, but then you can also say, this is how I would present it to the client. I would let them know that the quality would not be as good. You're going to see it'll look blurry, but then support it with the technical facts about that. Because if you go to a client and be like, well, it should be 300 dots per inch, they might not know what that is. You know what I mean? So some clients are a little bit more educated when it comes to that. Some are not at all. But in your post, because we all know what we're talking about, we can support it factually with that information. Because if, a client really wants to understand the process, you'll want to explain that to them anyway. Does that make sense, Larry? We're just talking about the logo. So a good idea, if you're ever put in that situation where a client says, take the logo off my website, you know, uh, yeah, just say, the better way to do this is if you can get me the original vector logo. So they would have to, if, and some don't have it. I've had instances where clients are like, I don't have the logo. Some designer did it and it's been years and like, they don't talk to the designer anymore or they like left and took the files. And that happens. Sometimes you'll find like clients will just be like, I don't have the original vector. Yeah. So sometimes I found myself in situations where I'm like, okay, if you want this to work and you want this to look good, I need to recreate your logo and I need to make it look as close as to what you have, like duplicate, but it's going to take time and obviously the client more money. But a lot of the times they're not going to want their logo to look bad. So a lot of the times they say, okay, and it's good because at least they have the original logo that they can send to other people. Because clients don't just use one designer typically. They use other designers or other places, studios, agencies. So yeah, well, that's another thing that could bring you more work too. Because if you have time and you think there's a need to evolve the logo and you think the client has the extra money to do it. But if you're in a situation time-wise, which a lot of, you'll find yourself in a pinch of time, You'll just need to recreate it, but allow them to know that you have to take that time to recreate it as closely as possible to what they have. Yep, yep. But it does happen, you guys. Definitely does happen. So it's a good scenario to kind of look at for this discussion and just discuss this, because you might find yourself in a position, in the same position. Okay, so assignment 3, you guys are going to create a campaign component brochure that goes along with your other pieces. You guys created a poster. So what you're, excuse me, I'm like dealing with some morning stuff here. But what you're going to do is you're going to use the same logo. Now listen to what I say when I say use the same logo, because I've had students that week 4 comes along and their logo, the Aqua Excursion logo, has 3 different color schemes on all of the pieces. So when you, in week 4, your poster, your brochure, your signage, all should look like as one component. So it should be consistent in the color. Okay. So keep it consistent. Make sure the color doesn't change. All right, so they're just talking about brochure size. Now, when you're doing a brochure, and some people get a little confused about this, you want to design it in a flat way, okay? Because obviously that's how it's going to be printed. And then once it's printed, it'll be folded into how many panels that you prefer. So we do the flat size, which is pretty much what the brochure size will be. Not every brochure is 8.5 by 11. There's different sizes, but for this particular project, it's going to be 8.5 by 11. So just read through here. It talks about what flat size is, what finish size is, just the terminology of bleeds, margins, gutters, things just familiarize yourself with, especially the terminology when I go in and critique your work. All right. Sorry about my clock here, guys. It's that time. My clock is so loud. I'll wait till it stops here. All right. So for the prompt, it says brochures can be very powerful marketing tools if handled in the correct way. It is important that your approach to the brochure maintains any corporate branding that has been established while making an impression on the target audience. Here are a few brochure design tips to help you begin your project. Know who your target audience is. What is their age? What is their income? What role do they have in the family? Are they primarily male or female? What is important to them? Now this is all part of the research part of your project. This is something that you probably should have done in the beginning, say when you started thinking about the colors for the logo and the poster, but for some reason it's introduced here in week 3. But so think about the overall personality of the person too, because we're going to design it in a way that speaks to that target audience. Spend considerable time designing the cover of your brochure. It is the reason a potential client will pick it up or pass it by. Create a cohesive visual roadmap through your brochure, making it easy to follow and understand by using properly sized gutters, consistent margins, and a well thought out folding pattern. Put things first, lead with strength, then give details. Use style sheets to maintain consistency within the type. Have you guys ever used style sheets before? Okay, good. Remember, and if you haven't, we'll go over it. Good. Remember, there should be no more than 3 sizes and 2 fonts in your brochure. Because of disconnect, we don't want to go too crazy. Keep your colors consistent and few, no more than 2 or 3 colors total. Employ the big 4 design principles to create focal points, hierarchy, and unity within your design. Utilize a grid structure or system to give you a strong structure upon which to build. So some things to think about when you begin the project. What you must incorporate is in the bullet points here, so at least 3 photos, and here are the approved photos you can download. Your final logo and palette. Some of you guys forgot to put the logo on the poster. Make sure that's in the poster. Paragraph styles, and then all text from this Word document here. That will be the text that goes into the brochure. Project specifications, so we're going to do this in InDesign. And the final flat size will be 11 11.875 inches by 9, so landscape format. I think I said 8.5 by 11. Sorry, that was incorrect. Two-sided folds to about 4 inches by 9 inches. So two-sided just means there's going to be, if you had the flat, you could, flip it over and it's printed on both sides. Folds to 4 inches by 9 inches. Margins 0.325. And bleed size is 1/8. Color space CMYK. And it just talks about correctly using the 6 panel pages for your panels. You're going to do 3 panels. 6 is just because it's like two-sided. Pre-press requirements, all images converted to CMYK. I showed you how to do that last week. You can do it again as well. All images placed at correct resolution for print, so 300 pixels per inch. Images not scaled below 80% or higher than 120. That's when you place in the images in InDesign, that's what they're talking about. They don't want you to go below 80 or above 120%. And I'll show you how to look for that. All spot colors converted to CMYK. Bleeds correctly implemented. Margins and gutters properly positioned. Document packaged for print. And I'll show you how to do that. When you're ready to name it, save it, sorry, this will be the original size of images used as 80 to 120. Yeah, I'll show you kind of how to check for that. So you're not going below 80 or above 120%. Yeah. That's just kind of like how you're placing it into InDesign, into the actual frame box. You're going to export the InDesign file to press quality PDF. I'll show you how to do that. Include crop marks and bleeds. That's super easy. Just note that this is different than print quality PDF. Package the InDesign file, and then you can place the PDF into that package folder before zipping. Then you're going to zip it and upload it for review. A lot of information, but I think you guys will be good. Any questions so far? I'm going to go right into the demo here if you don't have any questions. Nope? Okay. Let me just do so just open up your InDesign file at first. This is kind of what I would do. And then when you go File, New, you'll have an option for your size. So you're going to do 11.875 inches by, I think it was 11 or 9. Let's do 9. We're going to do 2 pages. You don't have to worry about facing pages because we're not doing a magazine. Start at page 1 is fine. We're going to keep the column set at 1. I'll show you kind of how to set your margins so that you can kind of figure out. You can do 3 too. I'll show you how you can change this. We'll just leave it at 1 for now. Your gutter is set to, let's see here, do we have a gutter? Bleed size, margins. I don't think we have a gutter set. Okay. Margins is set at 0.325. And if you want to just place it, 0.325, place it in one of these and then click on that little link, it'll change all of them. I'm going to sync it up. Bleed is set to 1.25, that's good. And then click create. It's going to pop me out so you guys can't see it. So I'm going to have to go back in. Here we go. Hopefully you guys can see this now. Let me share my whole desktop so you guys can see. Okay. Let me get my chat area up here. Okay. So this is what it'll look like. You'll have 2 pages. If you go up to your window and you choose pages, you'll see right here the 2 pages. You can quickly just go into. And like I said, the red is your bleed. So that's any type of like color that goes extended to the trim edge. Your trim edge is where the gray meets the white. You want to pull it to the red, which is your bleed. That way, if you're printing a lot of brochures on a press, if it shifts, which it probably will do, you won't have any weird white gaps here. You'll have the bleed to kind of save you. The purple line is your margin. That's not going to print. That's just for you to align your type or your other elements to that. Okay, now these rulers are up here on my top of my document and down below vertically. If you don't see those, bring those up. Go up to window. I'm sorry, view. It's under view, and it should say show rulers. Go ahead and show those. And then just check to see if you have your smart guides checked and snap to guides. Those are nice to have checked so that you're, it's intuitively helping you align things. Okay. Now the folded size, it talked about being 4 inches. Let's see here. Let's see how it says it in here. Fold lines are 2 side folds at 4 inches and at 9 inches. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. That's not even equal to that. That should be more like, so this is, let me set this at 0. There we go. Let me just check this real quick. This is your middle, so this is your 6. Okay. And this is where you don't see your guides. Okay, that's probably because of the lightness of my page. Let me go to document setup, and this is, let me see if you guys can see these guides here. Hold on one second. Margins and columns, that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so what you'll wanna do, not exactly what I just did, go up, and I'll zoom in so you can see this here. Go up to, once you create your page like I just did, go up to layout and check margins and columns. This is where you can say if you forgot to put your margin number in here as 0.325, you can place it in here now. This is where, remember in the beginning, I'm like, I'm just gonna set it at 1. Well, you can actually set it to 3, and that way that'll kind of intuitively show you where those folds will be. So this is where your folds will be in your brochure, like right in between this gutter here. So let me zoom in. When you set those, the gutters there, it'll be right in between. Can you see that now? If I zoom in on here. This is a gutter. That's the space in between. Okay. And I went ahead, good. And what you do is you click in either the upper part. Now I'm doing a margin that's vertical. So I just click right into the ruler, click and hold that click and drag it over. And that's how I have this guide, this blue guide. And that's just saying this is gonna fold here. Same thing over here. Let me delete this one. That's my middle guide. Let me show you how I did that. So you can kind of align things. Go ahead and drag over, and this will be in the middle there. Now the baseline grid is different than, yeah, I think that's what you're talking about, the baseline grid. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Don't forget, if you do it to page 1, you want to do it to page 2. So what I should have done was a shift select and went up to my margins, because right now if I go to my page 2, it's not going to show that. See how it disappears? But if I were to do a shift select and change my margins and columns, it would have applied it to both pages. Just an FYI there. That's where it's going to fold, where that blue line is. Okay. Now, can anybody tell me on this top page, let me name this here before I go doing another thing. Assignment 3. Can anybody tell me where the very front cover of my brochure will be? Now, I'm going to act like the flat top first page will be where the cover will be. Does anybody know which panel it would be placed upon? And we'll say 1, 2, or 3. 1, 2, or 3? Okay, this is where everybody gets kind of like confused, and it is kind of confusing, but think about when you have a brochure at home, flatten it out. Where would the cover be? It would be right here. So if you said 3, you're correct. I'm using landscape, so longer than, it's longer than more height. So if you want to, just to remember, you can kind of set up your, and you know, just to do this for sake of showing you guys what's what, I'm going to put little captions above here just to say, okay, this is going to be where the cover is. And sometimes this is nice to do as you're designing so that it doesn't, you know, it's not confusing. So that's the cover. This would be what? This panel. The back cover, good. So you might want to kind of do the same thing I'm doing. This isn't going to print. This is just for you to see. I'm just doing an alt drag here. And then this would be what? This would be the flap. So this would be the inside flap. If it helps you guys, you can actually print this out or pull out a 3-panel brochure, say if you have it at home, like a menu. Yep, it's kind of backwards. So on the inside, so this would be if you flipped over that page, the inside would be, this would be the inside first panel, inside middle, and this would be inside last panel. Okay. And like I said, you pull out a menu that you have at home, like a pizza menu. There's a lot of typical three folded brochures. Flatten it out and just see how they did it. That kind of gives you a better idea. But I have a lot of students that start the cover here on the inside flap, and I'm like, no, it's the other way around. So cover, back cover, you know, that would be, you know, contact information on the back cover. Cover would obviously be something that you'd want to pull the viewer in to see. Inside flap, you know, maybe extra details, and then the inside 3 panels would be all of the information provided for the actual like, you know, what they're selling. Your mind, yeah, automatically looks from left to right. Yep. Folded from the left. I had some with that design fold from the left. Okay. All right. Any questions about that though? It's pretty forward, right? Let me open up my Photoshop while I'm talking to you guys. All right, so I'm going to go right back into the details. It's really important to keep going back to your Canvas details just to make sure you're doing everything that you need to do. So what we need to do at this point, I would say, is go ahead and click on the approved photos. Click and download those onto your desktop. And what we need to do is, after we place them into your InDesign, we need to convert them. And I'll show you how to do that so that we're all on the same page. And let me open up this folder and just show you quickly what's in this folder so you guys know what you're dealing with. Sometimes it's nice to take a peek at what the images that you have to use. Yep, you're going to start in InDesign. You are going to be going back and forth though, so just kind of keep that in mind. Here are the images in that folder, by the way. So you have this nice brochure image of the kayaks and the colors. Here's a guy whitewater rafting with a kayak. So take a look at all of these before you decide what you want to use for what. I would also open up the Word file that's given to you and read through that as well so that you're understanding of what they're talking about so you can use the correct imagery with the correct copy. So anytime you get a project, read through all of the information first that the client gives you. Look at all of the imagery. If they give you any images, look through all of that too. That way, I'm going to download the Aqua text here. That way you kind of have a good kind of instead of going right into it and then kind of working backwards, you'll be like, oh, I wish I would have known. We'll read through the copy first, look through the images as well, and then kind of get a good idea of what you're going to do. So this is the copy that you're going to download. It's a Word file. This is all the information that's going to be in your brochure. So it looks like a lot, but the brochure is 6 panels total, so it's a lot of space to fill. The red is not supposed to be in there. It's just telling you what this copy information is for. Yeah, it is a lot of info, but read through here, check out what they're talking about. There's other required copy here. Custom adventures. You don't have to start with this particular copy, for instance. This says other required copies, so I probably would read through here and see. I probably would start, I'll read through this. Custom adventures is what really starts the package explanation. So you have custom adventures, kayak adventures, that's another headline, and it explains what these adventures are all about. Full moon paddle adventure. So you can see these all are specific adventures and tours that you can do. Here's the about us. So maybe this would be good for like the back flap or maybe the inside flap. There's also a tour package for every taste. So reading through this will kind of give you a good idea of where you're going to place everything, because sometimes it's not in the order that you should show it, if you know what I mean. So it could be like, okay, well, this would look better on this page rather than in how it's flowing here in the actual Word file. And sometimes that happens where clients will give you something and it just won't flow right, so you have to make it flow for what it, what you think it's right for. Okay. So go ahead and download that. And then what you can do is do a spell check first, right? So let's go up to, and you should do this all the time, even with clients' work, and go up to Tools, in Word, Spelling and Grammar. Just do a little spell check. Some of this, like for instance, you could just ignore that. That's a town. Looks pretty good, so we're good to go. All right, so obviously you want the logo, and then the kayak tours and sales and service is the main headline. Now they give you an option if you want this to be on the front or the back for the contact information. But I would start with, obviously this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back into my InDesign file. I'm going to go to the cover. And I'm going to look through the imagery that I have, and I'm going to take my type tool, and I'm just going to paste in this wording here, and I'm going to go centered just because I think it'll look good centered. And I'm going to center my type box, not on the, well, maybe I should do, I want to make sure that it's equal distance margin wise. So I'm going to pull another guide out, and I'm going to make sure that this is aligned so that this space from the fold line to here is similar to this space. Probably a little bit more here. So the margin is the same. Okay, you can't see. Let me zoom in. Oops. Oh, sorry guys. I forgot to switch my, can you see it now? Sorry. I don't know why I do that all the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so what I just did is see this, this is where it folds. This is the cover. So I want this space here from the margin to the trim to be the same as here. So I just pulled my margin over here, my margin guide, and now I'm aligning my box to this. So this space is equal to this space. Okay, and that's to the fold, it's not to this margin. That's a little confusing. All right, so I just copied and pasted that what I showed you before in the assignment information into here. Now I'm going to look at the photos. I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool, and I'm going to start. Actually, I think, yeah, I'm going to do this. There's different ways you can do this, but I'm going to just show you how I would do this. I'm going to show one big photo on my cover only. So I'm going to go from the full line, see where that blue line is in the middle, all the way out to my bleed, top and bottom. I'm going to pull this down here. You don't have to do it this way either. It's completely up to you. And then I'm going to go Command D, and I'm going to have to change the size of this, by the way. So just kind of be mindful that I'm placing this in here a little bit prematurely, but I'll show you how to fix it because we don't know what size we're going to use anyway. So I'm going to go through my photos, and I'm going to place the photo I think would work best for this particular cover. Now I'm going to go up to image because it's not fitting in correctly. Oh, this is where I wanted to show you while we're at it here. Okay, so I'm placing this in at 100% here. So I just went File, Place. Let me click on this again. There we go. There we go. So it's showing at 100%. I can go into your properties box. So if you don't have your properties panel showing, go up to Window and choose Properties. This is going to show you the percentage that you're placing this in. So right under here, it's showing 100%. If I had this different, it's going to shrink it down to that percentage. But, oh, that's the actual frame size. I'm sorry. It's placing it at 100%. Where? Let me go in my info here. Yeah, okay. So info shows you too that this is, it'll show you what file type it is and what the pixels per inch and the color space. So we already know that this should not be a JPEG. It should be a TIFF. The pixels per inch is correct, and then the color space is not, right? We want CMYK. So we're going to change this once we get this placed in here. What if I want to get an image on the page? What do you mean by that? More images. Well, you would just place more rectangle frame tools or a shape, and I'll show you a couple things that you can kind of play around with too. Let's see here. For the cover, you're asking? It's up to you. It's completely up to you. I'm going to make this smaller, whatever you think works best. Typically, a focal point image is always good. I just did fill. I don't know if you saw what I just did. I went up to Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally. It's going to fit it to this frame that I just created. So this is where you can see the percentage right here. Yes, it is less because I didn't change the size yet, and I'll show you how to do that. So right now it is below 80%, and that's something that we'd have to fix. Good observation. So that's what we're gonna have to change. I'll show you right now how you would do that. So if I know this is the exact image I wanna show on my cover photo, and it's less than 66, we're gonna have to go into Photoshop anyway, but I just wanted to show you, this is what you should do first. Get your photos in there and then see how big you're using them. So if I click one time on this and I go to Info again, up to Window. Oh wait, where'd it go? There we go. It's going to show me my the size of this box, right? My size of my image is about 4.1625 by 9.25. So that's the size image that I want this to be, 4.12165. Okay, so remember that, right? So 4.1 by 9.2. I'm going to go into Photoshop. Now give me 1 second because Let me open up this image. You guys can't see what I'm doing right now. So this is what you need to do. This is important if you're going to place images in your brochure. Open it up in Photoshop now. I'm in Photoshop. Now go up to image. Let me share my desktop so you guys can see all of my settings up here. Go up to image, go to image size in Photoshop. What did I say I was using that at before? Let me see. My width was 4.1625 by 9.25. So I would start with downsizing the height. Okay, yep. So I would probably do maybe 9.5. And look how it changes my resolution to 442. We don't want that to change. So I'm gonna undo that, and I'm gonna choose resample first. And that way it'll stay. If you don't have it at 302, you want to make sure that this is, yeah, that this set at 300. It could be less. And I'll show you a couple examples of that. So I'm gonna watch what happens when I watch the image size too, when I change this to 9.5. See how it changes the image size? It used to be 33 megabytes, now it's 15. So it drastically cuts that down. Now this is the height. If I were to change it so my width would be 4.1, look what happens to the bottom part. My height changes to 615. Well, I want it to be like 9, about 9 inches. So that's why I said change the height first. Maybe we'll do 2.5 or 3.5. I think I did a half before. And you should be good. That way you're not blowing it up past 100%. Yeah, exactly. Click OK. Now what do we have to do before we save this? We just changed the size. The resolution's perfect for print. Save as a TIFF, but there's one more thing we need to do. So, yep, color type. And how do I do that? Image mode in Photoshop. Good guess, yep. So see how it's RGB color space right here? We want to change it to CMYK. That's it. Click OK. Then we save it as a TIFF file. Now it's going to be making it a large file. But that's what you do for print. Just going to uncheck that for now. Everything else looks good. And then I just go back into my InDesign. Can everybody see InDesign right now? I just switch back. Okay. And I'm just going to swap this out. Now I can just do so the biggest difference between a TIFF and a JPEG is a condensed file. So it's going to throw out a lot of pixel information so that it condenses it and it's a smaller file. That means it's not going to be the best quality image if you want to have it printed. So you're going to change the size in Photoshop and then place it into InDesign. I was just showing you how to figure out the size before you decide to change it. Because sometimes you might be using an image super small or bigger, and you need to kind of figure that ratio out first. Now, go back into InDesign, and this is kind of the tricky part, but you'll get it once you kind of get the idea. Go up to Window and choose Links. Yep, exactly. And then we're gonna relink this. And I'm gonna relink this. I already saved this out as a TIFF, so I'm just gonna find my TIFF file. And I'm gonna place this in here. Now it's gonna be big because it's a TIFF file. If you think you're having issues with size, because you're gonna have a lot of images in here, you might wanna save it out just as a high-res JPEG. Just kind of know that that's not the way to go when you're actually doing this for, you know, a real life situation. I'm just worried you guys might have issues with size and placing it in to Canvas. So that should be good. So when I double click on that, it's showing as 98 now in my properties. So that's perfect. You can try the TIFF this time and then just see what your file size is going to be. If it's like really huge, then I would say just save it out. You can save it out as a TIFF and then save it out as a JPEG and see what the differences are. And I'll show you what my file size will be at the end of this. So we'll definitely talk about that. It might be too big, so we'll see. But you can see the color changed a lot in this photo when I changed it from RGB to CMYK. All right, I'm gonna go and send back because I have text back here and I'm not using layers. So I'm using a focal image, and this is a nice image to use because, you know, it shows people having fun and it kind of is a nice pull you in. What are these people doing? Look like they're having fun. It's colorful. So that it works for this cover, and I can use it as one big focal point. Now, style sheets. If you guys are, it seems like most of you guys are used to how to work with style sheets. If you're not, all you need to do is go up to Window, and there's style sheets in here. You guys will mainly be working in paragraph styles. I'll show you that first. And when you pull these up, paragraph styles and character styles are basically the same thing. The only difference is character styles is used to set emphasis on one or two words. Paragraph is to set a style for more than one or two words. So it'd be like a paragraph of text. There's more options in paragraph styles too. And styles are just a nice way, if you have a lot of copy, say for instance in this brochure and a book, to quickly change out a style so you're not sitting there and going from page to page setting up different styles. Yep. So just know, ignore the basic default paragraph style at first. It's always going to be there, so just ignore it. Say if I wanted to set this up to be a style for my headline, I would go to paragraph styles, and I would click on the upper right hand corner of my panel box, and I would say new paragraph style. Now you can also hit this little button down here. There's two ways sometimes to do one step, so it's completely up to you on what step you want to do. It's going to open up this box here. I don't know if you guys can see it. New paragraph style. What you're going to want to do is name this the style so you know what it is. So I would do maybe headline. Rename that headline. On the left-hand side here are different settings. So for general, obviously, it's the general settings. Basic character formats. This is where you can change the font family, the style, the size, the leading, tracking, the case, if you want it to be upper or lower case. Advanced, you know, this is proportionate, the horizontal, vertical. This is very specific information with the characters themselves. Indents and spacing. This is where you can align center, align left. We're going to keep it at centered right now. You can align it to a grid, although headlines, you really want to steer clear of this. You only want the body copy to be aligned to a grid, not the headlines. That way you're not dealing with any spatial issues trying to get your headlines to align. Tabs, you have those to set if you have bulleted copy or anything that you want to kind of tab out so it's not aligned with the regular body copy. Paragraph rules, we probably won't do much with that, but maybe magazine wise you would. Paragraph shading, drop caps, that would be more for like a magazine. Bullets and numbering. Character color, so like say if I wanted this to be a specific color, I can add the color here, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of options in here. Right now I'm going to change this to a specific typeface, and I'm just going to go with, let's just change it to this noteworthy, and I'm going to do a bigger font here. Click OK. And I just missed you guys. What you can do too, you don't have to necessarily do the changes in your actual style guides. You can do them first and then set it as a style. But you'll see my headline, once I created it and clicked OK, you can see it's in here. So I just have to select it to make that style work. Okay. If I wanted to change this in any way, I can, either by selecting it and double clicking on my headline to pop this back up. And if I hit preview, it's going to show the changes being done. So if I pull this to the right, like I am here, I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing. I can actually go through here and change the font. Or, I see half of it, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. You can actually change them here, but what will happen if you save this as a style and then you change it in your document, watch what happens. Like say if I wanted to change, say, oh, I don't really want this font, but I'm gonna change it here. Watch what happens. There's a little plus sign that comes up. That's just telling you you're making a change other than what you specified in that style guide. That's all it's saying. And that's okay. If you want to override it, all you have to do, and it shows you right here intuitively, option click to clear if you want to override it. So option click overrides it so you go back to the original style. Now, if you want to redefine it, you can hit control click and redefine style, and it'll set it to the redesigned style. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Yes, exactly. Yep. I'm going to show you real quick how you would change the color. If you wanted to pull the color from, let's say, this image, or I'm going to actually place the logo in here because the logo needs to be placed. I'm going to take another rectangle frame box. I'm going to draw the box here just for now. I'm going to do Command D, and I'm going to try and find that logo that I did in my demo. I saved as a ping. Fitting, fill frame proportionately, and I want this to be smaller, so let me downsize this. And then center. Oops, where's my? I don't want to do that. I want to center content. There we go. So I just made it smaller. I used my preference properties box. Yep, you're going to use the logo that you use, so it should all be consistent. And you're going to place it in here. It doesn't have to be big. Looks kind of off. Let me make it to the left a little bit. I'm going to either put it down below or above. Looks like it might be better above color-wise, so I'm going to put it above. Here's my margin here. I'm going to keep it a little bit far away from the trim so there's good balance there. And then I'm going to pull the headline down closer to the image so there's nice space in between. But that's okay. What I was wanting to show you is how to add color to your style sheet. So say you wanted a color that doesn't show in the swatches. Say I wanted to change this to maybe that red. Take your eyedropper tool and select that red in your, or whatever color in your logo. It's going to fill it in your fill box here. Just double click on that. When you double click on that, it's going to give you an option to add it to your swatch panel. Now this should be CMYK, so we're going to have to change this anyway. This is a ping image, so it's going to be RGB. I know a lot of you guys were saying I'm trying to change this to RGB. That's fine. Just ignore the ping image will always be RGB. Just ignore that, but everything else should be CMYK. So I'm going to add RGB swatch. Click OK. Now I'm going to go to my swatches and see how it says RGB. I want to change this to CMYK. So I'm just going to double click on the right hand side here of that rainbow box. Now I'm going to change this to where does it say process? Okay, we have process here, color mode. So we want to change this to not process. We don't want to do this. Hold on one second. Let me double click on it. Okay, there we go. And it's not changing. I might have to convert this a different way here. We don't want a Pantone. If you had a Pantone, Yeah, so let's see here, name of color swatch, new color swatch, process. I think there's a way to do this here, hold on. Oh, you're talking about up here? Color man. Let's see here, color. That's okay. Yes, right here. Okay, so you go up to your color. I was drawing a blank there. And I'm just choosing the color option in my window. And this will bring up your color. So you can't do it the way that was the only way to do Pantone to 4-color. If you want to change this to CMYK, you have to open up your color area up in window. And now I can change it to CMYK here. It's just an extra step. There you go. Just make sure you add it to your swatch. Yep. So that, yes, CMYK. Yep. Oops, I don't want to do that. Hold on, guys. I don't want to do that. Undo. All right, so now if I double click on headline, so I want to change this to that color, character color. Can you guys see my paragraph style option box here? Okay. Scroll down, and what you want to change it to is the CMYK color that you have in the swatch panel. There you go. So that's how you would do that. Sorry about that. I was kind of drawing a blank there. Yeah, I'm going to do a little shift return there so it looks a little bit better. Can I show you that change? Do you want me to do that over again? Okay, no problem. All right, so let me undo what I just did. So I just took my eyedropper tool and I sampled the color in here. And when you double click on here, if I add RGB swatch here, it's just going to add RGB. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go up to window and choose color. And it's going to show RGB totals, swatch totals here. What all you need to do is click on the upper right hand corner of that panel and choose CMYK. And then when that changes to CMYK, you'll see CMYK. Just double click on that fill, and then it'll open up another color picker and just add CMYK swatch to that. Yeah, there's always other ways to do it. That's okay. And then that should be added to your swatches. So if you were to go up to window, color, and open swatches, it's going to show in there. And that's good because when you go to double click on your style sheet and go to character color, your color swatches will show here too. Yep, you can rename them. Yep. So, you know, let me show you. We showed this the last time too. Just go ahead and double click on the inside of your swatch and you can rename it here. You just have to double click on it. But it kind of tells you what the CMYK totals here are. That's kind of what it's naming that after. So if you ever want to change that to that specific color in your logo, that's how you would do it. And that's how you would change RGB to CMYK. Okay, so that's the front cover. I'm going to choose to put the address on my back cover because in that Word file, it's showing the option. Let me zoom. Let me go in here. You can put it on the back cover or the front cover. I'm going to choose on the back cover. I'm going to copy this information, and I'm going to go right back into my document. I know somebody just typed something in here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Somebody typed in there. I'm going to take my type tool and I'm going to align it from my left to my right margin here, and I'm going to just do a file paste. Now, because I just did my paragraph style, it's setting it to that. I'm just going to go back to basic. And then what I can do is create a new paragraph style just for this. And I'm going to name this contact info. And I'm going to make this Helvetica, let's do 14. You can make this a little bit more emphasized because it is call out information. Get red, kind of, let's do centered alignment, contact information. There we go. I'm going to pull at the bottom, and we can kind of adjust this as we go. And I'll show you how to use the baseline grid alignment too as we start with the body copy. But that's the back cover. This could be where you put like the about us as well. Any questions about that? Okay, I'm going to go right back into my Word file again. I know I'm going to be swapping back and forth here, so I apologize, but I want to show you every step. Okay, so go back into your copy. I'm going to put the tour facts on the inside fold. So if you guys see that tour facts here, I'm going to put this on the inside fold. So I'm going to just go ahead, copy, highlight, and copy this. Command C. Go back to my InDesign file. And I'm going to take my type tool and I'm just going to draw it from left to right. You might want to do another margin to kind of set that so that your margin space again is the same. Basic paragraph style. Okay, so this is almost all body copy. You do have some emphasized subheads that you need to pay attention to as well. But choose for your style sheet. I just copy all of this and create a body copy style. And this will be the body copy style that you should have consistent. Name it body copy. That you're going to have every single body copy on in your brochure the same font, the same size, the same leading, point size and leading. So this should not change in any way going forward to be consistent. I'm going to just choose Helvetica. I'm going to do like a 10 point by 14 leading. That's a good ratio. They usually say have a 20% ratio between the point size and the leading. That's the space in between your lines of text for optimal reading. So that's always good to kind of figure out. I'm going to keep everything left justified, just left alignment. That's always good to do for lots of copy. I'm not going to change the color or anything like that. I'm going to keep it very simple and click OK. I'm not even going to put indents in here because the body copy sections aren't real long. And as long as there's spaces after, I'm good. Oh, the only thing I wanted to show you guys real quick, let me choose. The only way you would set a style to is if you highlight it. See how it just changed from a basic to body copy? So those are the changes I just made. What I want you to be aware of is this option. Double click back in there and make sure indents and spacing aligned to grid is set to all lines. This is where all of your baselines will be even if you have this selected. Do not select this option on headlines, just body copy. Now, this is probably going to happen to you if your setting is set just like mine. So you can see it's too spaced out right now, right? So what I need to do is go up to my preferences. If I click on InDesign and I go to preferences, I don't know if you guys can see that, go to units and increments. If you see it's really spaced out. So basically what I want to do is I want to, my ratio here, where do I change this? I always forget which area this is here, units and increments. Okay, I think this is where you would change it. Let me see here real quick. No, it doesn't. Okay. Hold on 1 second, guys. I always get, this is it's a little tricky here. I'm going to put the 2 points. There should be, let's see here, if it's guides. I just did this too. Baseline shift. Gradient tracking. It should be set to your, oh, you know what it is? It's in grids. That's where I got screwed up. Okay. So this is going to align to your grid because it's a baseline grid. Duh, I was looking under the wrong one. So go to grids in your preferences. If you have this where it's spaced out too much, it's basically just based on your default. So if I change the increment here, it's going to change in the look of this. Let me go to like 6. I'll show you here real quick. See how I just adjusted that? And I'll do an undo and you'll see it. So go up to preferences, go to grids, if that's happening where it's too spaced out, and just change your increment here. And I'm going to do it by half. So I'm going to do 6 points. And what that's doing is it's just changing the increments. If I were to go up to window, or I'm sorry, view, somebody had just talked about show baseline grid. It's just changing the increments of spacing in between here. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me undo this. See how that just changed? So you're changing the spacing ratio. And I'm just cutting it by half so that it's not so spaced out. I know it's a little confusing, but we don't want it to be too spaced out. We want it to be a true 10 points by 14 point leading. And mine was too spaced out. So if that's happening to you, definitely go ahead and check that out and see if that's what's going on. I'm going to hide this so you can see. But what's nice about the baseline grid, which we just, in our body copy, we have set under, let's see here, indents and spacing, all lines to align to grid. You don't want to have this set to I wouldn't want this set like this on my headline because it'll mess up the spacing. But body copies, it's nice because if I were to have, say, the same copy, let me just do an alt drag on this panel. Anytime I shift it up or down, it's gonna align it to that same baseline. So it'll kind of all be aligned. If I pull my margin guide, the same baseline all the way across the page. Does that make sense? I know you guys probably worked with that before. Why isn't this deleting? Here we go. Okay. Yep, grids, yep. Now that I have my body copy set, now I want to do specific things in here that pulls out more emphasis maybe on the questions here. These would be considered maybe subheads. So I'm going to select this first one and I'm going to create a new paragraph style. And I'm going to name this subhead. And I'm just going to make this more emphasized. So maybe in my font family, I would change it to bold, maybe a different color, maybe that red color, depending on what you want to do. And then go ahead and set it to that specific style. And what's nice about this is you can just select the next subhead and change it very quickly. Okay, any questions about that? What you do want to be aware of are widows like this. This is considered a widow, where it's one word on one line. So to fix that, I would probably put my cursor right before this to single word here and just do a shift return. That's considered a soft return. That's not going to put a hard return in there where it'll, if you put a hard return in there, it might set this second line to a different style. So a shift return keeps the style, but allows it to bump down to the next line. The next thing, this would be maybe treat it a little differently. The tour facts would be the headline for this area here. So I'm going to set it as the headline. I already have that setting in there. And then this, I'm going to put a space after this. This information may be more bold. So I'm going to do a new paragraph style for this. And I'm just going to put bold copy. Whatever you want to name it that you know it's going to be separate from everything else. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to give it the blue color, although I don't have the blue from, I'll have to get the blue from that, from the logo. But that's how you would change this. I'm going to do a shift return here. You can also put bullet points on here. So let's double click on my body copy style and I'll show you how to do that. With that selected, you can go to bullets and numbering. And you can change this to like bullets or numbers. I would probably do bullets for this one. Tab position, you can reset that if you want it to be a little closer. I probably would, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then that kind of sets it apart. Now I just hit delete and did a shift return and a tab. So it tabs, it aligns where the adventure aligns. I'll show you that again. That was aligning. If I did a shift select, it's not aligning properly. So if I hit a tab, it's going to align that perfectly. Spacing in between. You can also specify like the spacing in between here. In body copy, if I were, let me eliminate the space. Let me get rid of these spaces here. And double click on body copy. And I went to, let's see. Where's my, indents and spacing. Space after is what you can set your spacing consistently. So if you wanted to set a specific space after, let's do like 1.25, click OK. Wherever you have a return, I'm sorry, not return. Let me see if it, yeah. So you can see kind of change there. Let's do redo. And that's my bold copy. I want to go to my body copy and do that again. I just did that to the wrong thing here. Sorry, guys. Body copy, I want to select and then go to indents and spacing and do space after. Space after is any space after like a style. Let me go back to bold copy and go, make sure you don't have anything selected or else it'll do that. Bold copy, let me go back to spacing and bring that back to 0. Because there's spaces after each one of those. Oh, you know what though? Let's see. I'm going to space after that. Let's keep that the same, maybe put maybe a little less. And then the subheads here, go ahead and double click on that, spacing after. This is what's tricky if you have your baselines all attached here, because if you set this to 0, it kind of worked. I was going to say it might not align it very, very well, but it actually worked pretty well. So you're getting rid of that extra space and pulling that together. Now I would probably say body copy. Oops, let me do that. I would probably put just a little bit more space after. Yeah, see, it's affecting all that space after. I'm going to make this stuff a little bit smaller, the bold copy, because I'm having issues below fitting all my stuff in here, and I'm going to hit delete after each one of these because I think there is spaces. Let's see here. If I can change that spacing after. So it looks like it's getting a little bit too much. There we go. That works a little bit better. Now your headline, you might want to put a specific space after that too. Let's go ahead and double click on your headline and do spacing after that too. There we go. So it's not, you know, your copy's not right up against that. And just double check, I have copy. I have a little red box here saying, hey, you have more copy. That's still here, but it's being hidden by the box. Looks like down here. So I need to fix that. Let me see if I can bring up some words up here. So I'm just basically trying to fit that extra words up here. I'm going to go up to type in tables and characters. Sometimes there's tricks to this where Kayak, if I moved my kerning, see, I wouldn't go above 5, -5, but sometimes you can play around with that where it bumps it back up without having to worry about added space. I do have an issue here with a widow, so I'm going to see maybe if -5 will affect that. There we go. Now, if I do that, a -5 leading or kerning, so I'm trying to bump this up. See how the little plus sign? Because I'm changing that style. So I'm just going to double click on my body copy just to change that tracking to -5 for everything. So keep it consistent. Now this information probably would be good to have this bold as well. So you can probably set that just like you did above. Any questions about that? So you can see that there's hierarchy here. It's easy to read, I think, for the most part. I think the only thing that bothers me is I'm going to create a new paragraphs for this. So I'm going to make it like the headline. So I'm going to do a duplicate style. I'm going to do headline 2. Let's just name it headline 2. And I'm just going to make this, let's see, left align. That's bothering me. So I think just because everything else is left aligned, I kind of like that. If I have everything centered, say on a panel, it makes sense for that. But now it just looks like it all kind of flows together a little bit better. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my Word file. I have a lot more information in here. I have to place custom adventures. But now that I have my style sheets ready to go, it should be easier. It is a lot to take in. It is. It's a lot of information. So I understand it could be kind of a little overwhelming. Let me see if I can share my desktop here. Once you get everything in here, you have your style sheets, that's a little easier. I'm going to take my type tool and just draw out one big type box, and I'm going to paste in all of this information. And I'm going to make sure that this is set to body copy, my paragraph style. And what I would do is set this to be 3 columns. So how you would do that, this is one big text box. You would just go up to your, now this is a little different than what we did for your margins. So you would go up to Object, Text Frame Options, because we're doing it to your frame that you just did with your text frame. We're not doing it to the actual layout, the page. So this is why it's a little different. So go up to Object with that text box selected, Text Frame Options, and just go ahead and change this to 3 columns right here. And you can see, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it changes it to 3 columns. So like for instance, if I were to pull this copy box up, it bumps it to the next column and to the next column. So it's 3 columns. Does that make sense? So I just selected that text column box, went up to Object, Text Frame Options, and I changed that to 3. Anybody have any questions about that? This I could just kept as 1 column because I just drew this out. You could do 2 columns, but because I'm copying and pasting the 2 sections here, I'm just leaving it as 1 column box. I think the inside is just easier to do 1 box and then converting it to 3 columns as 1 box. Does that make sense to you guys? because we have 3 separate panels that are so different, but on the inside it's a lot of flowing information that can be easily added in here. All right, so we still have a lot of stuff that still needs to go on the inside here, and I'll show you what I mean. Let me go back to my Word file. Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna add this. I copied all the way, this is what I just did, custom adventures all the way down here. And I stopped here. The about us I'll have on the back page, so I'm gonna ignore that for now. But we still have all of this information to also put on the inside. So I'm gonna do a copy, tour package for every taste, dolphin watching. So this is different information that you'll need to also have in your brochure. I would probably do this on the centered packet or center panel on the inside. So let me show you what I mean. Custom adventures, kayak camping adventure, full moon paddle, private tour. I'm going to do a paste right here. And I'm going to enter this so this becomes the top here. And then I'm going to hit return. So this goes to the very top here. So we're going to even this out the best we can. So you can kind of look at mine and figure that out on your own. So custom adventure starts it out. Kayaking adventure. Oops. Full moon paddle adventure and private tour. Then on the inside we have a tour package for every taste. Guided wildlife tours. And then I'm leaving space here so we can kind of add some photos to kind of even it out too. So you kind of get the idea of what that's gonna be. Oops. Go ahead and make these subheads. See how quick that is? I'm gonna make this a subhead and I'm gonna make this headline too. Treat a little bit different. I'll probably make this capital T. Shift select that down. So it's just kind of manipulating this so it's easy to read and makes sense overall for the hierarchy. Subhead, this is a subhead. This would be maybe bulleted. So once you have all your style sheets in, this is what I mean about it being a little easier to manipulate. Now you can delete whatever extra spaces are in here that are a little bit too much spaces. We're just deleting because we already have that set in our style sheet. There we go. Okay. Oops. This bumped up. I'm just hitting a hard return to put these at the top. We can actually, this might be even a big headline too as well. Because this kind of all goes together, but I'm trying to make this more like evened out. All right, so that's that. And now all we need is the about content. So the about content is the only thing that we don't have in here. And I thought would be good for the very back panel page, because usually the about us is always kind of like the call out in the back panel. So I'm going to copy that, go back to my InDesign layout. There we go. Take your type tool and let me put out my margins here based on my folds. And do a paste. About us can be the headline too. And then I'll have to fix it based on what we have left here. Looks like I have a lot of copy left over. Yeah, it looks like right here. So what I might do is just move this information over here. I'll just have to treat it a little differently because it's hard to read over top of this. So we'll have to do just like a little bar, some type of bar here. Any questions about any of that? I still need to kind of jazz it up a little bit because obviously it looks unfinished. So I'm going to add some images in here. Okay, so I think to tie this in, I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool up to the very top left bleed, and I'm going to pull it all the way across to where it meets, almost like the cover here. I'm going to kind of overlap it right where it folds right there. And I'm going to place in an image that's provided to you guys. I already have this in mind. Where is it at here? Where did I put all my, there we go. I'm going to place this really cool image, and the background is my background image. And you can double click in here once you fit it, and you can kind of, move it around, whatever you want to do. I'm going to place this all the way in the back, so arrange, send to back. Now, obviously I can't read it. It's hard to read. So I'm going to go ahead and take squares that are colored squares, and I'm going to make those white. And I'm going to bring the text to the front, just kind of like I did before, showing you kind of tips and tricks. Go to your properties box. This is where you can change the opacity, because I want to kind of see the image underneath, but I want to be able to read it. So I'm going to take it up about like 81%. Okay. Any questions about that? I don't want my copy to be too close to the edge of this box, just because it's harder to read. So I want to make sure that there's enough margin space around my copy box and my white box. And let me hide everything so you guys can see what this is starting to look like. Okay. Same for the inside. I'm going to just copy this. You can keep it very consistent if you want. You don't even have to, you can have it like all a color, one solid color. Sometimes it's nice to be a little bit more dynamic with your images. So having something like this in the background makes it more visually interesting and less flat looking. Just as long as you are able to read the information in here. That's the only concern. So just make sure you have enough contrast. And at this point, I could probably even, just to keep it consistent, pull this all the way to the right. And I'm still kind of keeping that outer border. Is C, Command D, the easy way to duplicate that background. Yep, Command C, Command V is paste. Alt drag is Alt Option drag is an easy way to duplicate it too. If you select this image and do an Alt drag, it duplicates it. I'm gonna change this to maybe 85 here. Yeah, Alt Option. It's both on the same key, so it's Alt Option together. Yeah, it sounds confusing. So let's do like 85%. Okay, it's a little bit easier to see on the inside. 85%. Let's do it for these two. Can we do alt drag on the white background too? Yep. So if you wanted like this same box, you do an alt drag and it duplicates that. Yep. Anything you want to duplicate. Now don't forget, we have to, anything that we create, like this background that we placed in here, we need to make sure we open it up in Photoshop and change everything about it. Remember the size. So let's go ahead and go up to Window Info. And right now we're using this one, about 12 inches by 9 1/4. So let's go into Photoshop. When you know the size that you're placing it in, that's where you need to open it up. And if you know that you're going to be using that for specific size, we'll need to go in here and change the size and the color mode and all that good stuff. Why isn't this opening? Hold on. I think somebody wrote in for some reason my Photoshop's acting up on me here. Hold on 1 second, guys. I think I'm just doing too many things at once and it's hating me right now. Wow. Okay, let me close out of Photoshop. For some reason, I'm having issues with it right now. Somebody type in here something here. Can we use color background? So yes. You can use. You can even go. I would say be very careful, but you can even go on Pixabay.com. Pixabay.com is a great site. I'll type it in here. To get high-res images and maybe find like a texture background if you want, like sand, something that's light that you can use on the background image instead of the ones provided. I would be willing to accept that too. All right, here we go. For some reason it just got freaky on me. Okay, I'm in Photoshop. Image size 300 pixels per inch. That's good. My height and my width is 12 by about 9 1/4 that I'm using this in. So that's pretty close. So if I wanted to change this to 9, watch what happens to my height. So I really want to make sure that this is at least 12 1/4. So it really doesn't change too much. 300 pixels per inch is what I'm concerned about. So I just changed that just very slightly. Go up to Mode, CMYK. Click OK. This is going to be a really big file size. I'm going to go File, Save As, TIFF file. And I'm going to just name this a TIFF, and then I'm going to do it as a JPEG just to show you the different sizes. This is going to be significantly different size-wise. What you really want to do is place in the TIFF file if you're in a situation where you're working with a client and they're going to print this for print. But I'm thinking we might have some issues with the file size for you guys uploading. So if it's an issue, you might need to just place in a JPEG for now. So let's go ahead and I'll place the TIFF in there. Okay, I just placed it in there. Same thing with this one. Go to links. I'm going to relink this one. So everything you just did also has to be done in Photoshop. What do we do? Okay, so let me take a look at how big my file size is when I'm done here, and I'll let you guys know. I just want you guys to know the proper way to do it, but I'm afraid you might have issues. If this is over like 120 megabytes, it's going to be way too large, and it might be. So let me finish this out, and I'll let you guys know what you should do. But for real true print purposes, you should go into Photoshop, do exactly what I showed you, save out as a TIFF, place it back in your InDesign file as a TIFF. So you want to get in good habit of knowing how to do that and know that that's the right way to go. And if you are trying to upload this and you go with all the TIFF files and it's not uploading, it's the size issue. So what you might need to do is go back and replace these with the JPEGs that, you know, do everything that you just did in Photoshop, just save it out as a JPEG instead. Yes, for a real project, you would save it out as a TIFF. It's just a unique scenario here because Canvas can only handle so many, you know, a certain size of file. But when you're in a true situation with a printer, they have the capabilities of handling large files like that. Okay, so. All right, so for your extra pictures, you know, if you do extra pictures in here, which I would really highly recommend, I would just keep it very consistent. So I would say like these two images, I would keep very consistent size-wise. Maybe this one would be the same width, but maybe because it's a little different in the middle, you can change the height to it. You know, just kind of even it out a little bit. And I just decided to do it this way. You don't have to do it the way that I'm doing it. I'm just kind of showing you options, but keep it the same shape and width. You can change the height, but you know, don't make it so off where they all look different. You want to make sure that it looks consistent too. Okay, so this talks about a moonlight camping adventure, full moon paddle. So go through all of your images and pick the one that you think works best for this. For this one, I believe week 4 you will be talking about Behance. I'm just going to place this image in here. And if you double click inside your frame box, the red box will appear, so you can use your up and down arrows. If there's more image to be viewed here, you can adjust this. I'm going to place this little girl in here. I think a little boy in here. I think this one's a good one to use. And then this one maybe be like the dolphin watching one. I think there's one in here with a whale. Oops. Object fitting. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure, go to your properties box. This is about 3.5, about 3.6 by 2. So you want to go back into Photoshop. It's kind of a lot of steps, but it's good to kind of get into the habit of doing this, because if you're doing anything in the real world, this is what you have to do. Image size. So this is really big. Look, this is 14 by 9, and I'm only using it for this space, which is 3.6 by 2. So I need to change this to, we'll do 3.7. See how it significantly, it went down from a 33.6 megabytes to 2.3. And 300 pixels per inch is correct. Image mode, CMYK, click OK, save as a TIFF. So you want to do that with every single image here. I believe at the end of week 4, you are to add this to Behance, I believe. So I'd have to, oh, I did the wrong thing. I'd have to look at the thing again. Here we go. And then just kind of replace this in here. What am I doing? I don't want that, and I don't want that. Let's go to relink this instead. This one is still a JPEG. You can see it in here. This one's 3.6 by 3.4. So I would open this one up. .6 by 3.4. That looks good. Change the color mode. Same as a TIFF. And then the last but not least, and I won't switch because I know you guys are probably tired of me, 3.6 by 2, again, the same thing, just with the Shamu picture. I say Shamu, but the killer whale picture. Pretty similar to the other one here. This one, go to image size, I believe, yeah, this is, check this out, this is 200. This needs to be 300. So all you need to do is change this to 300. You can resample, click resample, and you'll see it kind of gets smaller. Now we need this to be about 3.5 by 2. So this is really close to being almost not possible, but I think it's okay. I would just leave it at this original size that I just resampled it. It doesn't have to be exact. We might have to blow it up a little bit, but it'll work. Save as a TIFF. But that's just kind of what to look for. You'll want to change that to 300 for printing purposes. I see somebody typing in here. Hold on. Where is the brochure you did in Photoshop go to? Well, we're doing it in InDesign. We're laying it out in InDesign. We're just changing the, we're just converting the images so that they work for print. So I'm just replacing these in here so that they're full, high res CMYK imagery instead of RGB. Does that make sense? Okay, let me reset my essentials here so you guys can see. So this is basically what I have for my final brochure. Just kind of make sure you go through, your rags, take care of any hyphens or anything like this. See how which I would probably do a shift return here, just to bump that down. Anything weird, breaks, or anything that you need to fix. All right, I know we're kind of getting to that point of time here. Yes, exactly. So you just change you convert the images, change them to the right pixels per inch. They need to be changed. Change it to the size that you're going to be formatting them in here, and then change the color mode from RGB to CMYK, and then save it as a TIFF. Okay, so now we're going to save this out as a press quality PDF with crops and bleeds. So we're going to go File, in InDesign, and we're going to go to press quality. Save it to your desktop. And the thing to pay attention to here is the marks and bleeds. And where it says marks, you're going to choose crop marks, bleeds, and just like you did for your poster, use document bleed settings. And that's it. Click export. Might take a little while. This is going to be a big file, and I'll show you how big my file is here. And then you're going to package this. So you're going to go up to File, Package. This is where you can double check your work to make sure everything is on point. So your fonts are listed here, links and images. If you have any type of RGB image in here besides the logo, so right here I'm seeing my logo is RGB. That's okay because it's a ping image. All the rest of these are CMYK, and they're TIFF files. Hit Package. Make sure all of these are checked. You don't have to check the PDF because we already made that. Hit Package. We want all the fonts and the images linked to this to be in together. Now I'm going to share my desktop. Let me just hide everything so you guys can see what this all looks like here and what you guys need to do. Okay, so it all went into this one folder here, except for the PDF. So I have my InDesign file. This is only showing because I have it open right now. So you have my original InDesign file, which is what you want. Your fonts are packaged in here nicely. Your image is packaged in here. The only thing it doesn't have is your press quality PDF. This is the press quality PDF, what we did separately. Go ahead and open that up. Make sure, you know, it looks good. You have the crop marks in there, your bleed and your crop marks. Make sure both pages are in there. It looks like I only have one page in here. If that's the case, just make sure when you do, let me do this again. Press quality, you have 2 pages listed. Aha, all pages. That was my problem. For some reason, 1 page was listed. Let's do an export, save that. Here's the new PDF. Now this should have 2 pages in it now. Yep. Okay, and then just drag that into your folder. Make sure it's the right folder. Yep, drag and drop that in there. There we go. Now my file size, if you want to check it, you do Command I when you select your folder, 127.7 megabytes. That's really big. Now, let me zip it and see what it comes up to now. Let me zip it, do select it and do a file compress. Sometimes this makes it smaller, but we'll see. It's a big file. Do Command I. 64. So it actually kind of takes it down more, but you know, you could still have issues with uploading it. If you're still having issues uploading it, just go back to your file. When you're saving out your TIFFs in Photoshop, save out a duplicate of a JPEG. So when you go File, Save, you know, I'll show you here. So for instance, this one, I saved it as a TIFF. Go ahead and save it as a JPEG too. Put it in your folder. And you can save it as the maximum, that's okay. And then all you would need to do is go back into your InDesign and just replace it out. And that what that's going to do, you know, obviously that's not how you would send this out to print, but it's going to make your file size a lot smaller. Probably like from a 65 megabyte to under 15 megabyte. So if you're having issues, you can put your TIFF files in there, but if you're having issues uploading it, you're going to probably need to do that. Anybody have any questions about that? You could just save it as a JPEG, just as long as you're opening it up in Photoshop and you're changing the size that it needs to be and converting it from RGB to CMYK, you can save it out as a JPEG. Just know that that's, you know, you're only doing that for purposes of being able to upload it easily and not for print purposes. Just know that that's not the total proper way to do it. I know it's kind of backwards, but sometimes if you're having issues uploading it, you know, you have to go that way. Yeah. All right, so I think we did everything in here. The only thing we didn't go over is your assessment. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little how-to quick video, and I'll just post the assessment video to announcements so that I'm not, you know, obviously time has gotten away from me and I kind of spent more time showing you other things. So assessment 3 is basically, it's pretty easy. So that's why I might just do a separate video for you guys. What it is basically you're going to be coming up with a sign for this same logo. So it would be a sign maybe outside or inside. And the prompt here, oh, okay, it's in the front of the building. That's what it is. And they're going to cut it from vinyl and plastic. You have to make sure that it's able to be seen at night, so you have to have a lot of contrast in it. But basically all you're going to be doing is creating a sign in Illustrator. And the sign original size is 4 feet by 10 feet. But we're going to scale this down. So they're talking about scaling it down. 1 foot is equal to 1 inches. So this really would be 4 inches by 10 inches. So 4 inches by 10 inches in Illustrator is how you're going to do it. You're going to utilize the 2 spot color version of your logo. So you're going to go back to your Illustrator file and you're going to use that logo and place it into your layout. And then you're going to use these this copy here for your sign. So it'll be very, very minimal because it's a sign. Let me see if I have any examples here to show you. But I will do a separate video for you guys so you guys know what to expect for this. Okay, so it's kind of like this, but my sign would be a little different because of the colors will be different. Okay. So I would use similar typeface that you use maybe in your brochure, obviously the same color of your logo. And then this is, I'm sorry, this would be 4 inches high by 10 inches long. Just make sure it's readable. All right, so I'll do a separate video for that and post it to announcements so you guys can see the demo of that. And I'm not taking any more of your time up today because we are past our time here. Does anybody have any questions about what I went over, today for your brochure? I know it's a lot of information, but I will post the lecture as soon as it gets processed, and hopefully you can use that going forward. Is everybody okay? Okay. It's definitely a lot more work than the poster, but it's all kind of the process here. All right, guys, well, I'm going to wrap it up. And like I said, I'll post the how-to signage video here soon. You guys can get started with that too. Thanks for meeting up with me and enjoy the rest of your day. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for joining me. Thank you for your time. All right, guys, have a great day.